Yeah, a couple of weeks ago with that. Even the tile downstairs, like the men's original bathroom, I was talking to my other guy, Jeff, to try and keep that mosaic tile down. Even the windows, all the windows that got upstairs recently, they're gonna pull those to get the original, like, full blown glass with all the impurities and flaws in that.
Yeah. The mortar, even if it's a match, they can start digging out local sand. Because the store bought mortar wouldn't match. So if it was obviously Boyne City area sand, so they mix that rigid.
The bordering the roof. That was all custom.
Pricey. Oh, God, yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just the thing to go please.
Laster.
Here.
Nemchek.
Here.
Conklin. Rudy. Needhammer.
Here.
Form president.
Can I get a motion to excuse the absence of Mayor Hugh and Commissioner Martin?
Make the motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, before we get started on the consent agenda, I'm going to read through this. We recently had 2 losses involving Boyne City team here that we would like to take a moment to recognize. The first is the recent passing of former city treasurer Edith Beck. Originally from Austria, Edith came to Boyne City from Clinton Township and became our treasurer in November of 1980. A position she held until January of 1987. Edith is remembered as a great person to work for with a very sharp mind, especially for accounting, and very warm heart. She kept very active traveling around the world since her retirement while still close to family and friends. Edith Beck was 95 years old when she passed. We'd also want to give our condolences to our current DPW heavy equipment operator and cemetery foreman, Robert Levanway Jr., who lost his father, Robert Levanway, very suddenly last Friday, who was only 67 years old. Please join me in a moment of silence and remembrance of the loss of these 2 great people who impacted so many people in our area in a positive way, in positive ways, and we send our support to their families and friends at this time of loss. Okay, moving on. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. The purpose of the consent agenda is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any items on the consent agenda be removed and placed as the last item under new business to receive full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. Is there any staff member, anyone in the public that would like one of these agenda items removed from the consent agenda?
I have one comment concerning item D. Approve the recommendation of the library board of trustees to appoint trustee Debbie Needhammer, who is my wife. I cleared this with Mike and with a legal opinion that there is not a conflict of interest. There is no monetary gain. So therefore, I will
All right, thanks.
let me clarify.
Yep.
I just had one thing, I'm not sure if it really makes a difference, but under the minutes for the last meeting, it was written in there that after passing of Martha Wandra, that she was a former mayor and a commission member. Actually, her son was a former mayor and commission member. I'm not sure if that needs to be corrected or.
Yeah, it should be. It should be. And you got those notes, Jessica? Okay, thank you. All right, with that being said, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. By moving on to citizens' comments. Citizen comments on non-agenda items, please address the city commission from the podium. State your name and address. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes. Time will be kept by the city clerk, Jessica Farrell. The purpose of the citizens' comments on non-agenda items is to allow citizens to address the city commission on any topic of interest to them. If you have questions, they will be addressed as best they can when you are finished. If your questions cannot be answered at today's meeting, it will be directed to city staff and you will be provided an answer in a reasonable amount of time, but no later than our next meeting. Is there any public comments on non-agenda items?
Hi, my name is Steve Person, 437 Copper Street. I hate to be out in front of everybody, but, well, I'm kind of curious about the parking situation. At the last meeting, you guys talked about the parking lot over by the library. Being either sale or whatever. It's like 34 parking spots. Okay, and Stig's went south, which are actually taking 8.5. So it seems like they're giving away a lot of property for parking, so I'm trying to figure out why that is. I mean, Stig says 7. All week long, last week, Stig put their truck in that parking lot, which right here, every day, today they moved it. So if somebody went by and not see that it's in that parking lot, it looks like to me, like it's Stig's parking lot, they've taken it over. I don't know if they have. So that's kind of a question. That's what I gotta say.
Okay, just so I know, just so we make sure we follow up, what
I'm
was it?
curious what they're doing with the parking lot for sure.
Okay,
They're gonna take away 34 parking spots if somebody buys and puts a business. That's 34 parking lots, spots. Plus, when Stig wants 7, but they were taking 8.5 because they have where they have their grill. It's in that 45-degree spot at the end of the thing, which they got their grill, their firewood. It would make it hard for the fire department, I would think, to get one of their big trucks in. But I thought that was against the law to park on that end. Maybe I'm wrong. I apologize, but I thought that was there for a reason, so people could get in and out easier with big trucks.
okay.
So that.
Follow up on that.
Yep.
Just clarification, do not table that and send it back to staff, so we don't have an answer yet as to if Stiggs does or does not get this. So I just wanted clarification. Did we not say June 1st?
June 1st.
Yeah, I wasn't here for the meeting, but I observed it remotely. That was the consensus that I got, that it was put on the table until June 1st.
So we may not have an answer for you in the next meeting because it's being studied, is my point.
See what I'm saying, we're taking out 8, 8.5, and it's 7, so I just thought I mentioned, make sure you understood that.
Yep, I appreciate
Should
it.
take out another 5.5.
Is there any other public comment? Anyone?
I know you guys are probably tired of hearing from. I've spent a lot of time and energy on the Boyne City Marina, and I still think you didn't take into consideration that more parking spots will be used if you increase that marina. You've got a ball field that's going to be upgraded and used by a lot of people, and we'll probably bring in more tournaments to a nice facility like that. That'll take more parking. You've got to focus on things that are important. We've had parking studies where you said we were short on parking, and then we had parking studies where it was, no, we're okay, except on the 4th of July and a few other big events. I don't think that's true. The parking lot he was talking about by the library, I drove by yesterday on a Monday in April, not a heavy tourist season. 27 cars were parked there. 27. That's a pretty significant number. Where are those 27 going to go if you get rid of 45 parking spots, or worse? And I personally think that giving states the opportunity to buy public land to expand their business is an absolutely terrible idea. Because then you're gonna have other businesses who say, we need extra parking, we need extra room. Where does it stop? And can you stop it when you set a precedent like that? That is a scary thing to me. And I've been busy on Facebook, you probably read some of the posts. There's a group of us that are forming a citizen committee, and we're trying to get other people involved. Want people to know what's happening in the city in a timely manner. We want to be able to have input. And we want to have those meetings made public and advertised a lot so people show up. And you say people need to come to your planning meetings. I've come to a few of those. I always felt like they already had their agenda planned. There was very little room for extra input or bringing up a different subject. I think parking is important to people in town. I think housing is incredibly important to people in town. And I think you're talking about the STRs and the B&Bs. You need to realize maybe it isn't all of the housing, but a lot of the housing that would have been affordable for families has been bought by people who then fix it up. They live downstate, they rent it out short term to pay their mortgage and their taxes until they're ready to come out here and retire. That puts people who are working every day at a huge disadvantage because they can't make money off their homes. Those are businesses. They need to be treated as businesses. So I think there's a lot of things that people in Boyne are concerned about. And one of the things I've heard over and over and over is, why do we need a marina expansion when our marina has been allowed to deteriorate? And there's other parks in town that have been going downhill and not been updated. Those are the things that make life good in Boyne City for the people who live here year round, for the relatives that visit them. And also I've had a lot of tourists say, we love Boyne City because it's not overdeveloped. And there's very few towns around here who can say that about. So I just want you to know we're going to be keeping an eye on things. And my request to you is, because there are many diligent people who have spent hours and hours of their own time on this, as soon as you find out about that EPA grant, please make it known to the public, both on your website, through newspaper articles, and even on TV, because we're going to have a limited time to make any changes to that or try to prevent that, and we need to have notification. And if you really care what the people think, you'll make sure we get that. Thank you.
Dr. Mass.
Penny, outside of the request for the EDA's grant status, was there any other question directly that you want us to follow up with?
I just kind of wanted you to know what I've been working on. I missed the last meeting too,
Okay.
but I didn't want people to think I'm just going away, and I didn't want people to think I'm only negative. And I'm trying to cause a mess with everything you do, because that's not my point.
Okay.
My point is keeping Boyne City alive and active with a diverse type of employment, so full-time families, visitors, businesses can all have a place that they can do business and live and enjoy it.
All right. Thank you for that. Does anyone else have, oh, Sandy?
Speedy Gonzalez here. Hi, I'm Sandy Pritchard. I live at 506 Lincoln Street. Specifically with regard to the EDA grant status, having looked over that, there is a thing called an applicant official representative. And at any time, they can log on to see the status of the request. Previously, I sent in a bunch of questions, and the answer to every one of them came back no. And one of them was specifically about the status. So you gentlemen probably need to push on Mr. Kane and Mrs. Brooks to go into that website. And African official representative can log on anytime. Got a couple things I want to cover. SDRs. Granicus only counts platform listings, Airbnb, Airbnb, blah, blah, blah. To say that there are only 145 SDRs in units in Boyne City is ludicrous. Maybe by the Granicus standard, saying this, it is. But it doesn't capture how many we really have. As a starting point, I think the team needs to look at what we're defining as an SDR, because currently the operating definition is 30 days or less. And that does not, is flawed criteria, in my opinion. You all say Boyne is a tourist town. Well, Florida is a tourist state, and they use 6 months or less in their definition. And other major cities throughout the United States define it as 4 months or less. Further, we have a plethora of realtors who manage a number of vacation rentals that far exceed this, and they don't show up in the Granicus count. So somehow or another, we need to get our handle on that. I guess my takeaway, my question, my takeaway for this, Tim, is for Barb Brooks and Mr. Kane to go in and find out the specific status of the EDA and report back next meeting. The library lot. I'd like to see a show of hands. How many of the commissioners were aware of that proposal prior to the meeting last week? So you knew before the agenda was issued, you knew of that proposal. Is that true?
Yeah, I'll give you my response to all yours.
Okay.
I'll give you 5 minutes uninterrupted.
Okay. Once again, people are blindsided. Penny's point. Yes, the commission acted. There is a thing called the public participation plan, which includes a lot of vaulted words and platitudes and no implementation. And nobody owns it. And it talks in there at length about transparency and community involvement. And if you go back in commission meeting minutes, I think September, October, whatever, there was a discussion about having a survey, blah, blah, blah. None of that's happened. The participation plan needs to live. And you don't understand why people get all up in arms. It's because it does not live. Why didn't that proposal for the library parking lot get tabled for more thoughtful discussion? I realized it was at the end of the night, but there was very little discussion. And to say that we're only looking at it to see if there is interest is naive. Are you kidding yourselves? People, developers are all over coming into Boyne City. And if we're serious about, and as those proposals are narrowed down, it's going to gain momentum on its own, just like Marina. And in my opinion, there wasn't sufficient forethought to begin. Although the idea of makerspace was great, the upstairs, in my opinion, if we're serious about affordable housing, then the proposal starting point should be 100% affordable housing above it. Beyond the fact, we don't believe that parking space can be sacrificed. And by the way, where's the input from the EDA Main Street? In the EDA documents, by suggesting the sale or lease of city lands, page 15, number 9, states, portions of the development area, which the authority desires to sell, donate, exchange, or lease to or from the municipality and the proposed terms. That's the name of the statement. It says, there are no parcels that the DDA plans to sell, donate, exchange, or lease to the city of Boyne City as part of this development plan. With that. Lastly, marina rates.
For 5 minutes is up.
Okay. Get that in order. Thanks.
What was your question directly? Remind me again what the library thing? Oh, the library. So I was not at the last meeting. The library was brought up at a public meeting, sometime in March, I want to say. It was when all the board, it was like a joint meeting between the boards and the commissions. It was brought up by Monica, the director of the library, at that public meeting. Steve Schnell, the director for Housing North, approached me and asked me if I would do a Zoom meeting so he could discuss it more in detail after Monica brought it up at that public meeting to review that. And so I had that conversation with Steve Schnell. But from my understanding, I wasn't at the last meeting, but I viewed it remotely again. There's no solid plan set in stone. I know the library is looking to do something with the piece of property in the building that they have. And this is part of the process and trying to find out what they can and what options are out there. I got a business card right here. I have been reaching out to developers left and right, so if you do know any developers, please take my business card, give it to a developer that would be interested. Because that is my biggest priority as a commissioner, is trying to find housing solutions. And if there's a developer that you know that's interested in coming into Boyne City and doing some development work, please get them in contact with me. I'm very interested in that.
Participation plan ownership. Be a follow-up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? Ron? Ron?
First of all, I like to know how many people work at the city of Boyne City. Because probably in the last 15 years, I don't know how many times I had come and direct people to flag etiquette and what the American flag should be flown. And most of all, what they need to realize is that the people who are at the memorial are what they gave up is why we're here today, and a lot of people seem to forget that. And City Hall is very number one about doing that. I've seen it time and time again since we built the memorial, and it's very discouraging to me. It tells me that they don't care, because if they cared, a red flag would be flying for weeks. I let them go for 3 weeks. And I stopped and told the city 3 times. And never got changed, so the last time I raised some stickers at the desk. So that tells me right there, so I hand everybody a pamphlet, read up on it, you know, and let's do the right thing. Because every time, first thing I get up, I go down to my house, and I look at my flag. If it's ripped, I take it down. This color, I take it down. That's the right thing to do. And when I was born, I do that, I don't know. But if you say you're American, be an American. Don't do it half-assed. Excuse my French. But the other thing is, I want to point out is that the fence going in the memorial as we speak should be done either tomorrow or the day after. And the other thing I want to bring to attention, we don't have a DPW director. It's been over 3 months. Help me understand. You know, and I just can't understand all the people, city workers from the police department on City Hall that have left. For what reason? There's gotta be a reason. A hidden agenda somehow.
Mike, do you know the total employee count in the city of Pawtucket?
I would want to give you the, I don't want to add it up, give you the correct answer. Okay.
Okay, is there any other public comment?
Right.
Yes.
Scattering on 112 West Boyne Street. On top of employees, sorry, I'm a little having much, but I think it's due to the retirement plans that the city has. It's been brought to my attention before, and I think it's something that needs to be looked into as far as retirement for all city employees and competitive pay too. My son would be, but I think those might be a couple considerations to look into. Another topic, short-term rentals. I just want to say, I haven't looked into it myself, but if the city commission has the authority, the emergency authority to put a cap on short-term rentals until they revisit their ordinance meetings and hopefully put in an ordinance, but I think the cap, if you have the ability to, needs to be set right away, because I'm starting to see houses for sale in our town, but I haven't seen houses for sale before. And I probably guarantee they're gonna turn into vacation rentals or people from downstate coming up. It's not a bad thing, but vacation rentals is the biggest topic right now in my mind. And I think, like I said, again, if you have the authority, put an emergency cap on it right now. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment?
I'd like to ask you a question about the butterfly thing, is that allowed?
We can do it later.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next item on the agenda is correspondence. I'll read through what we got. 5A is a letter of support from Boyne Area Chamber of Commerce. Have each commissioner had an opportunity to review that? Okay. Item 5B is an email from Chet Polowski, as each commissioner had an opportunity to review that letter. And then C is another email from Chet. Each commissioner had an opportunity to review that as well. Okay. Any questions, any comments from staff or the public in this correspondence? Okay, moving on to the next agenda item is number 6, city manager's report.
Yes, I want to report that work is progressing well on the North Lake Street Bridge reconstruction. With the sidewalks being reported yesterday, work is expected to be completed in the next couple of weeks. Work on the Rivermouth Pump Station next to the Lake Street Bridge began last week and will be continuing for the next few months. There will be some temporary equipment that's being set up outside the building to keep the system operating during the construction, but that all will be removed when the project is complete. The attached Rivermouth restrooms to the pump station portion of the building are expected to remain open to the public during almost all of that time. The last component of that project that's expected to arrive will be a new backup power generator, which will provide electricity to the pump station, the restrooms, and some other downtown items like traffic signals and street lights during power failures. That will not be here until the fall. People may have noticed that new 2x4s were set up around the gazebo in Old City Park last week. Those have been put in place to allow the work site for the gazebo reconstruction project to be tented off. We received word last week that the long delayed special order replacement posts and other materials that are being custom made in Canada were being shipped. It is hoped that they will arrive this week and that work will commence shortly thereafter. We have yet to hear anything further on the EDA grant application for the marina, but we do anticipate hearing some news on the 2 waterways grants that we recently applied for, possibly by the end of this week. Our spring leaf collection is underway on Mondays and Fridays now through May 23rd. Leaves must be in biodegradable plastic bags for collections in those local stores like the Co-op and Boyne Hardware. Our spring rubbish, residential rubbish collection is scheduled for Saturday, May 21st. Absentee ballots for the May 5th ISD millage renewal and addition election remain available here at City Hall. 272 of those ballots have been returned by voters as of Friday. City Hall will be open this Saturday, April 30th, and Sunday, May 1st, from 8 a.m. to noon on both days for the issuance of absentee ballots. And then the election will be held a week from today on Tuesday, May 3rd, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. with city residents voting here at City Hall. Our annual Arbor Day celebration was again a success with our free seedlings being all given out, over 200 by noon last Thursday. Earth Day will be celebrated both at the library and the farmers market, which is held in the Veterans Park Pavilion. This Saturday from 9 to 2 at the farmers market, there'll be a variety of electric cars on display, local organizations, and of course, music and food to purchase. People can sign up at the library for free white pine seedlings and planting kits. And those are going to be available to be picked up starting on Saturday, April 30th, and for the week following that. A reminder that our next short-term rental work session will be taking place next Thursday, May 5th at 5:30 here in the City Commission chambers. And another retirement, our EMS director, John Lamont, has announced his plans to retire in the near future. John was hired to become our EMS director in June of 2004, another long-term city employee. During his tenure, John has greatly improved our EMS service into becoming the advanced life support system that we have here today. The position is currently being advertised and applications are being accepted through May 9th. Work on the Lincoln Street reconstruction project between South Lake and Grant Streets is scheduled to begin on Tuesday, May 23rd. Work is scheduled to be completed by August 26th. The street will be closed to through traffic during most of the construction, so people that use that road will want to find an alternate route. There will be a public information meeting with the contractor and our city engineers regarding the project on Tuesday, May 17th at 5:30 p.m. Here in the Commission chambers. Plans for that project are available for review here at the lobby. And with the departing of the winter ice on Lake Charlevoix, the main boat launch dock at main boat launch was installed this morning. As mentioned earlier, boats are starting to be out of lake. So if you have any questions on these or other items, I'd be glad to address them.
Was there any damage to the launch at all from the ice pile?
No, no, and there was quite a bit of, yeah, it was quite an amazing pile that was there. So, no, I'm not aware of any damage to report. Good.
Any questions? For the EDA grant status, is it possible to access that website that we're hearing about?
I'm gonna check into that with Barb actively.
Okay, and then just a status update on the DPW interviewing process.
Yes, that's scheduled to take place before our next meeting, so hopefully we'll have more information by that time.
Okay. All right. Moving on to agenda item number 7, reports of officers, boards, and standing committees. Any questions on that March 2022 financial statement? To number 8, old business, we have none, so skipping right to agenda item number 9, new business. For year 2021-2022 budget amendments.
What the commission has before them today, and that is basically fine tuning adjustments with regards to closing out our current fiscal year. Our current fiscal year ends at the end of this month, and our new fiscal year begins on May 1st. So as was mentioned previously, at the last meeting, we adopted the budget for the coming fiscal year. That is not what we're dealing with today. Today is just the department heads have gone through and working with Jessica, our clerk treasurer, have reviewed their accounts for revenues and expenditures and made any last minute adjustments, hopefully bring us in on track with regards to those. And that helps us avoid any last minute hurdles or questions that may come up during the audit. So pretty perfunctory. One of the biggest changes is with regards to the fire department budget. When we went through the budget review process, we explained to the city commission that one of the pieces of equipment that we had purchased was, like many things, back ordered, and we were not anticipating it for several months into the new year. And right after we approved that, and went through the review process, we got word last week or the week before that the equipment mysteriously was arriving. So money that we had moved into next year's budget, from this year's budget, we had to move back. And that was to the tune of about $41,000 or $42,000. So that was one of the biggest changes that took place in there. Again, we're just trying to make sure that everything lines up through the end of the year.
Okay.
Jessica has anything that she wanted to add with regards to it?
Any citizen comments on that agenda item? Any, board discussion? Any question?
Just one question, yeah, just so I'm understanding the ledger here, right, is the numbers in the red are numbers of dollars that were given back or put back into the general fund? Do we have a total on that? You don't, okay.
That'll adjust, and we'll take a look at that again as we, in the budget that was presented to the city commission. We were anticipating that our deficit was going to go down to approximately $41,000 this current fiscal year. That will go back up a little bit because of the potentially with regard to the changes that we did with the fire department, but we'll have to look and see how all those things.
It looks like everybody did a nice job of not spending their whole budgets.
Well, and again, that's something that we stress with the city commission as we go through the budget process. We line out kind of the blueprint for the year going forward. Again, we want to make sure the resources are there for projects that are needed, but not just to spend money for the sake of spending.
Okay. If there's no other questions from the commission, I entertain a moment, entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt the fiscal year 2021-22 budget amendments as presented in compliance with the accounting and budgeting standards.
Second that.
Okay. Got a motion, any other discussion for roll call? Okay, roll call please, Jessica.
Hammer,
Aye.
Lassiter,
Aye.
Nemecheck.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Moving on to agenda item 9B, purchase of extrication equipment.
Yes, what we're looking for is to replace our older hydraulic extrication equipment with new battery operated tools, which are more efficient. They're smaller and quicker and lighter and easier to use. Our older equipment, we have to hook up to pumps, use hoses to run them, which are 15-foot long, so that doesn't give us the ability to move out quicker as they're farther away. And we also have to have a guy at the pump all the time operating that pump while we're using tools. So this does give us more the ability for manpower. We tried out 3 different demos, Genesis, Elantra, and Hirsch. We felt that the Hirsch was the one we liked the best and met our needs the best. With Genesis, we did not get a bid on that. We did not feel that those were on our expectations, but we did get bids from Elantra and Hirsch. The Elantra tools ran $39,987. The Hirsch was $34,000, and that was the tools that we liked the best, anyways. We would also like to use $12,000 of our fundraising money toward the purchase of these tools. We've had the fundraiser going for a while now. We haven't changed the using the money for any purchases. We thought this would be a good time to use that money and let the people support us see that we are using this money to purchase tools and equipment that we state and go out to fundraisers. So we'd like to recommend to purchase these tools from Power Fire Company and the cost of $34,000, using $22,000 on our budgeted money and $12,000 for our fundraiser money to purchase these tools. I'll answer any other questions.
Is there any public comments, citizen comments on this?
I just want to say, I think Boyne City has an amazing fire department for all these volunteers, and they've been very supported by the community. I think that's a a great plan. It's a way to save the city a little bit of money for other things that are needed. And a lot of people know that their dollars, when they give, really do help our fire department. So, thank you.
Any other, Ron?
Yeah, being a citizen of one city that I am, parents, for my grandparents, great grandparents. You know, my dad helped our fire department. These guys have done exceptional, good job, even the younger guys, even this old part over here. But, you know, besides that, you know, we can't thank them enough. I mean, you know, they do the right thing.
Any other comments from the public? Okay. Any questions, discussion?
Just curious, is this something that could be paid for our ARPA funds, Mike?
Potentially, yes.
Is that too late now?
For this purchase, yes.
Question. No, I in full support. I agree with both public comments. Dennis, thanks for all the years. You guys do a great job and that's 41%.
Yeah, I'm in full support. Maybe when you guys came to our budget meeting, I had we discussed this, the equipment specifically, and the cost there. The only question I have is, how is the warranty? Do you feel comfortable with the warranty for the batteries? Because I know the batteries are a big expense.
That was part of the reason when we went with the Macho and Hirsch, they have no batteries. They're lithium style battery that they produce themselves, and they're supposed to be a longer life battery. They say these batteries are 3 to 5 years, depending on how much use they get. And then we can purchase them right through them, and they warranty these batteries also.
Okay, awesome.
Whereas the Genesis and some of them are just using the Milwaukee or
The third party application. Okay.
we just felt it was better than this and that, and stand behind them. You're supposed to be able to, you know, get, probably cut up 2 cars with one use of the battery before you have to change them all.
Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the request from Fire Chief Dennis Amesbury to purchase the Hearst E-Tool from Apollo Fire Equipment Company for the amount not to exceed $34,000. With the Boyne City Firefighters Association contribution amount being $12,000 and the city portion being $22,000.
Second that. This also includes a spreader, cutter, ram, and extra batteries.
All right, any other discussion? All right, I'll entertain a vote.
Lassiter.
Aye.
Nemecheck.
Aye.
Hammer.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thanks, Evan. Moving on to agenda item 9C, second tabulated purchase.
So each precinct must not contain more than 2,999 active registered voters. Currently, the city of Boyne City has 3,338 registered voters. The 2020 presidential election proved that there is a need for the city to have more than one tabulator, which means dividing our current precinct into 2 precincts. As there was a line from the upstairs area of the building all the way down through the stairwell to the sidewalk for the entire day. County Clerk Julia Trucks supports the city establishing a second precinct and believes it will make our elections easier going forward. A voting tabulator is a freestanding computerized device that is capable of automatically reading, processing, and depositing voted ballots into a secure storage device. The current tabulator that the city has is a Dominion. At this time, Dominion is making plans to make more tabulators. It needs to know how many more to make in efforts to avoid supply chain issues. If approved, the city will remain as one precinct for the May 2022 election. Work to divide the precincts will begin after the May election. It is expected to be completed in time for the August state primary election. The new tabulator can be purchased through election source. I reached out to the county clerk to inquire if there are any other suppliers they would recommend, and they are the only supplier the county This was budgeted for in our upcoming fiscal year beginning on May 1st, 2022, and will not be purchased until then if approved. Included is a quote received from Kurt Knowles at Election Source. The cost for our complete tabulator is $5,295 plus the cost of shipping and handling, which is expected to be in the $500 to $600 range. The 3140 plus 400 is for a complete batch voter assist terminal system, which you only need to establish, which you would only need to purchase if establishing a second polling location. Our precincts can share an existing batch system if they all vote together at City Hall. All registered voters in the city will continue to vote here at City Hall, so the purchase of a second batch system is not needed. The city will have the option to conduct temporary precinct consolidations. This is where the city's township, local school districts, intermediate schools, and community college districts divided into 2 or more precincts can combine due to smaller elections. The consolidation of precincts must be effected through the adoption of a resolution by the appropriate election commission. This would be an option that is utilized for qualifying smaller elections. Any questions?
Any public comment, any citizen comments? That's it.
I just wonder how it's gonna work. Are you gonna divide the building into 2 different areas for people to go to when you get the second tabulator?
So my thought process behind that is maybe I'll reach out to the fire department and see if we're able to utilize their space. We've got a nice area down there, but that'll just depend on what they have. If not, there's always the option of one upstairs and one downstairs, or I do know that the county does all 3 in one room. So the exact layout of that, I don't have. But we have the room and space available to keep it all here.
Any other public citizen comment? Okay. Any questions from commissioners?
Yeah, so to follow that up, you could have both in this, and the idea would be the line that would all the way upstairs and outside would be reduced because you're moving twice as fast. Would you need twice as many workers?
I am gonna have to do a big push for our election inspectors to get some more. I can always take them from other counties too. Not take them, they can be used in other districts. But we have our training is, I talked to the clerk about that, the county clerk Julia. In end of May, beginning of June, she anticipates to do inspector training, so I think then we'll start advertising and pushing to get some more people in here. To be honest, I think people are curious and they want to be involved in this type of process, so I know. That's what we'll do.
Jessica, just, obviously, we heard a lot about Dominion voting machines for the last presidential election. And, you know, who knows what you believe or what you hear, but so many negative things about them. Have they done anything to improve that transparency or checks and balances to make sure things are done accurately?
Well, before every election, we hold, I'm sure I'm a blank here, but we go through and we publicize the public accuracy testing. And it goes through, we're supplied with any scenario that can happen. And on ballot, and we go through and validate the machines that work correctly. So, and then before that, you know, we do our own testing to make sure it goes through. As far as what they've done on their end, we don't.
I know this is a discussion point that you had for us at the budget meeting that we had. And it's pretty, I mean, it's the first line, the state of Michigan requires each precinct containing more than 299 active voters to have an additional precinct, and we're at 3,338, so this is an easy one. The only question I had was in regards to like Dominion. From my understanding, I'm speculating, we don't have an option of going with a different brand or a different manufacturer or stuff with Dominion, correct?
I mean, we would have to purchase a new one. We need both tabulators would have to be this brand.
Right.
So I guess I don't know what our options are as far as what will be available. And how quickly we can get one.
Okay. you understand, isn't the state of Michigan contracted in with Dominion? As far as we don't have the option to go with Dominion or this one, where we're at with our authority level, we're stuck with what's contracted by the state.
Again, I'm not sure what they use on a statewide basis. My understanding was just going to be able to kind of clarify this, that at least Charlevoix County uses Dominion equipment throughout, and they like having standardized equipment. The processes, that's kind of like Jessica was saying, okay, we can't have two different brands of machines here with regards to the process, but she would know that better than I do.
All right, so that, boom, all right. Any other discussion, stopping points, questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the request from city clerk treasurer Jessica Pill to purchase a second Dominion tabulator in amount not to exceed $5,295 plus the cost of shipping and handling to be purchased in the 2022-23 fiscal year.
Second. Any other discussion? All right, roll call please.
Nemecheck,
Aye.
Hammer,
I,
Glassman.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Moving on to the next agenda item, number 10, go to the order. Clerk. Anything, you're good to the order?
no, I'm good.
Okay. Make my day easy, all right. Next agenda item is 11 announcements. The Chinese, the Charlevoix Admin Special Election is May 3rd, 2022. That's coming up. The next short-term rental meeting is scheduled on May 5th, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. The next regular city commission meeting is scheduled for May 10th, 2022 at 7 p.m. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion adjourned. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Start out there, don't worry.